Ever wondered how microchips power all your devices? We're taking you inside the factory to show you the precise process behind these essential components. From raw materials to final products, watch how these small wonders are crafted to become the brains of smartphones and computers. Let's explore the fascinating world of microchip production together. Want to dive deeper into the tech that runs your life? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our awesome new videos every day. We're excited to share this journey with you. And if you enjoy this peek into microchip making, drop a like to show some love. Get ready for a close-up look at how these tiny marvels come to life. Ever wonder how a day at the beach could lead to your smartphone? Let's check it out. Picture this. You're holding a handful of sand. Looks ordinary, right? But that sand contains silicon, the secret ingredient for microchips. Silicon is the second most common element on Earth. But we can't just use any old sand. It needs to be super pure. So how do we get from grainy sand to shiny silicon? Time for some science magic. First, we heat the sand to crazy high temperatures. We're talking about 2000 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than lava. Imagine a furnace so hot it makes the sand glow and shimmer like liquid gold. This isn't your average beach bonfire. We're cranking up the heat until the sand melts into a bubbling, sizzling pool. Then we add some carbon to the mix. This helps us get rid of the oxygen in the sand. You see, sand is mostly silicon dioxide, with each silicon atom hanging out with 2 oxygen atoms. The carbon we added steals the oxygen away from the silicon. It's like a chemical magic trick. The oxygen and carbon team up to form carbon dioxide gas, which floats away, leaving our silicon all alone. But we're not done yet. The silicon we've got now is still not pure enough for our microchips. We need to make it even cleaner. So we melt it down again and use a process called the Czochralski method. Here's how it works. We dip a tiny seed crystal of pure silicon into the molten silicon. Then we slowly pull it out while spinning it. As we do this, the liquid silicon starts to cool and solidify around the seed, growing into a big, round cylinder called an ingot. This ingot is super pure. We're talking 99.9999999% silicon. That's way purer than the sand we started with. But we can't use this big cylinder in our microchips. We need to slice it up into thin wafers, so thin they're almost see-through. Now, you might be wondering, why go through all this trouble? Well, silicon has a secret superpower. It's what we call a semiconductor. That means it can sometimes act like a conductor, letting electricity flow through it, and sometimes like an insulator, stopping electricity. This special property is what makes silicon perfect for microchips. Think about it. We started with ordinary beach sand, and now we have these ultra-pure silicon wafers ready to become the brains of our computers and smartphones. It's pretty amazing how something so common can become something so powerful. From grainy sand to shiny wafers, that's the incredible journey of silicon, the hidden hero in your pocket. Ever seen a crystal grow before your eyes? Well, get ready for some amazing silicon transformation that'll amaze you. We've got our pure silicon, and now it's time to turn this chunk into the perfect foundation for billions of transistors. How do we do it? With some crystal magic that's incredibly precise. Let's dive into the fascinating world of silicon wafer creation. It all starts with a special oven that's hotter than a volcano. We're talking temperatures that would melt metal in seconds. This isn't your average kitchen oven. It's a high-tech crucible designed to turn our pure silicon into a molten soup. Now, here's where it gets really cool. The engineers take a tiny seed crystal, about the size of a grain of rice, and dip it into the molten silicon. It's like fishing, but instead of catching a fish, they're catching perfect crystals. As they slowly pull the seed out, something amazing happens. The molten silicon starts to copy the structure of the seed crystal, but there's more to it. They don't just pull it straight out, they spin it too, like a super slow-motion dance. Imagine pulling taffy while twirling it. That's kind of what's happening here, but with molten silicon. This spinning and pulling continue for hours, gradually forming a massive single crystal ingot. It's like watching a tree grow, but way faster and way more high-tech. The precision required in this process, called the Czochralski process, is incredible. Even the tiniest imperfection could ruin the whole batch. It's like assembling a fine watch mechanism. Every tiny part has to be perfect for the whole thing to work. Now we've got this big crystal cylinder, but we're not done yet. Remember, we need wafers thin enough to make microchips. So how do we turn this crystal log into silicon pancakes? With some seriously precise slicing. They use a specialized saw that's sharper than a samurai sword and more accurate than a laser-guided missile. This saw slices the crystal ingot into wafers so thin you could almost see through them. We're talking about wafers that are only 2/3 of a millimeter thick. That's about as thick as a human hair. But even that's not thin enough. These wafers go through more polishing than a beauty queen's nails before a pageant. They're buffed and smoothed until they're flatter than the flattest thing you can imagine. When they're done, these wafers are so smooth and reflective, they're practically mirrors. Why all this fuss over flatness? Well, remember those billions of transistors we want to put on these wafers? Even the tiniest bump or scratch could mess up hundreds of transistors. In the world of microchips, a hair's width might as well be the Grand Canyon. Remember those flat silicon pancakes we made? It's time to turn them into something amazing. But first, we need to enter a room so clean it makes a hospital look messy. Let's find out why. Welcome to the clean room, where microchip manufacturing magic happens. The air here is incredibly filtered. In about 10 liters of air, you'll find just one dust particle larger than 0.5 micrometers. That's cleaner than an operating room. Why so clean? We're about to draw circuits on our silicon wafers smaller than a virus. A single speck of dust could ruin millions of dollars worth of microchips. It's like trying to paint a masterpiece while avoiding grains of sand blowing in the wind. Except our grains of sand are too small to see. Before we enter this ultra-clean space, we need to suit up. We'll put on special outfits that cover us from head to toe. These suits keep tiny particles from escaping and contaminating our work. Once we're dressed, we take an air shower. A blast of filtered air removes any invisible particles clinging to our suits. It's like a car wash for humans, minus the water. Now let's check out the star of our show, the photolithography machine. This high-tech wonder uses light to print tiny circuits on our silicon wafers. Here's how it works. We coat the wafer with a light-sensitive material called photoresist. Then, we use a photomask to project a light pattern onto the wafer. The light changes the photoresist, creating intricate patterns that become our circuits. We repeat this process up to 40 times, adding a new layer to our chip each time. It's like building a tiny skyscraper, but with layers of circuits instead of floors. As we build these layers, we're creating transistors, the building blocks of our microchip. Modern transistors can be as small as 1/1000th of a millimeter. That's smaller than a red blood cell. The latest advancements in photolithography use water to boost the laser beam's intensity. This lets us make transistors about 5 times smaller than the tiniest bacteria. It's like we're working with Lego bricks, but these Legos are so small you'd need a powerful microscope just to see them. Throughout this process, the clean room keeps things spotless. The ventilation system circulates millions of cubic meters of air every hour. Hundreds of air regulators keep the airflow steady, making sure no unwanted particles sneak in. After all these steps, our once blank silicon wafer is covered in billions of tiny transistors. It's amazing to think we started with something as simple as sand, and now we have a wafer that will soon perform billions of calculations per second. From a grain of sand to a powerhouse of calculations. That's the journey our microchips taken. These little wonders are getting better every day, making our lives easier and greener. Check out the latest power semiconductors. They're in our phones, electric cars, and even wind turbines, handling big currents while using less energy. Pretty cool, right? Who knows what these tiny chips will do next? Maybe they'll help us explore space or solve global problems. Next time you use your phone, remember how that little piece of beach sand became a tech marvel. It's exciting to imagine what new innovations are just around the corner.